Right, hopefully we get some people on and hopefully everybody's all right. As you can see, there's loads of stuff piled up behind me because it was obviously Christmas recently. Lots of bits have had to be tidied up to not be in the way, so they're just shoved in here, basically. This is like, storeroom, essentially, rather than anything else. Yeah, hopefully we get some people on. I've set the chat, as usual, to be like subscribers for 5 minutes only, because that means it's harder for people to just keep spamming accounts and coming back if they're, like spamming the chat. They'd have had to make all their accounts in advance, sort of thing. But yeah, hopefully we get some people on. I'm back to work tomorrow because unfortunately with Christmas I didn't get any extra time off. With my job, it's basically just depends when Christmas falls. If it would fall on days I'd have a shift, then I'd get extra days off. But if Christmas falls like days I don't have a shift, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some people on. All right, M10M. So yeah, there's no particular theme for this stream. People can talk about whatever. But yeah. Right, Ordinal Gaming looks annoyingly like, my sort of face is a bit eczema-y up there again, so ignore any like horrible looking skin on my face. Not much I can do about that. Yeah, I had a good Christmas at least. But again, Christmas I always find is a bit stressful as you get older. As a kid, it's great because you don't do anything, and you get given presents. But as an adult, you have to get other people presents. If you're working any sort of job that has anything to do with retail or whatever, it's always busier than that around Christmas. Right, military and stuff. All right, Rajiv. So yeah, I thought I'd do a webcam stream tonight because I haven't done a webcam stream in a while. And I know normally if I do, a game stream, people complain I'm not doing a webcam stream and that. So I thought I'd do a webcam stream, see if people come on or not. Normally I don't get a chance to see any of Mike's ones, annoyingly now, because they're normally, if they're on in the evening, that's normally after I've gone to bed. So that's good. All right, Nick. You had a nice birthday and a good Christmas. I'm glad you find this stuff interesting, Ordinal Gaming. I did get a couple of those silly comments the other day from people when I did that video about, how this year's gone, where people saying, well, if you made better content, people would watch your videos. And I said, well, this is the thing, because when I did that poll, I think it was only about 5% of the poll said, I get the notifications, but I'm not interested in your videos anymore, that sort of thing, It was most people literally say they don't get notifications or only rarely get the notification for my videos. So that is down to YouTube, isn't it? And like I said in that video today, thanks to the person who told me, by the way, how to stop it auto-playing videos when you hover over them, because I've turned that off now, which should massively help, stop YouTube spamming me of videos I don't want, because, like my mouse cursor or phone screen are like part way down and then it auto-plays something. C7 in the background. Yeah, poking out the box, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Vox Police Medal. So, yeah, annoyingly, I think it's going to be a wet, horrible day tomorrow when I'm at work. But I'm hoping work won't be too busy. But I'm sort of thinking, even though it's been Christmas, it might still be quite busy. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, because here's the thing, like, Nick, with stuff like that. So whenever I do a video on blank firing guns, they often get a lot of views, but YouTube doesn't monetize them because it's like too firearmsy related content for them. So it's this kind of weird thing, like with those, I get views, but like no money, or they do make money. It's just YouTube takes it all and says you can't earn money from it. And, there's lots of stuff like that. And again, when I look at, the things of like my most viewed videos, like the last 30 days or that, sometimes it's just like, yeah, that shifts all the time, where YouTube's deciding this month we're just gonna, do this rather than this. But yeah, that's the problem is with YouTube, like you can't really do better content that the people want to view. Like I said, because again, there's a gas mask I haven't done a video on yet. But again, it's like some of my most popular videos used to be per month on gas masks aren't always the case anymore, Again, I always get annoyed when people seem to take that attitude of, why don't you just keep making the same videos over and over again each year? Well, because what's the point? If I made a video a couple of years ago that's fine on something, I'd rather do something new and interesting rather than, like I said, I don't want to re-review a GP5 every year. I do have, if you mean a podcast microphone, I do have a Blue Snowball, actually. So my microphone itself is a Blue Snowball. I know the Blue Yeti is slightly better, but yeah. I think part of the problem is it's quite hard to noise cancel all the PC fan stuff out. So every time I've ever used a headset, like I definitely notice when listening back to the audio, the Blue Snowball sounds better. $19.95 DIY channel 4 7 PM aesthetic. Okay. But yeah, it's like, but when I'm streaming games, depending on what I'm streaming, sometimes like on the PlayStation, you have to use the PlayStation's headset, obviously, rather than the Blue Snowball. Oh, I saw that, Nick. Yeah. Yeah, they look good. Like, so what I'm buying next month, but again, I don't know the very specific model yet, because it's one of those things where, because the prices fluctuate a lot, it's going to be, I'm probably going to order it on the 2nd of December once all the Christmas and like New Year bollocks is out the way, because I don't want to order it now and then have loads of days of, you know, stuff being stuck in postage or whatever. I'm going to order a digital X-ray sensor with the software. So how they work, you plug them in on the USB, and it's like a little square thing on a USB cable. No, I didn't, military and stuff. But yeah, it's, so they're like a little square sensor, and they pick up X-rays rather than visible light. So rather than trying to do an X-ray, you know, with a phosphor screen or like photographic film, it's like essentially you get a digital photo of an X-ray using them. But the thing is, like, they vary from about 400 to 700 quid, you know, depending on the quality of the model and the price fluctuations. So what I'm going to do is, on the 2nd of December, see what the best value for money one is. That doesn't necessarily mean the cheapest, but, you know, like, which model is at the best price at that time. Because sometimes it's only like 60 quid difference between one of the lower end ones and the higher end ones. And sometimes, you know, it's like 200 quid difference. So on the 2nd of December, when I actually order one, I've told anybody that gave me money for Christmas, that's what I'm using it for. I'm going to get a digital X-ray sensor, and that means I can do an actual X-ray and then put, you know, it as a clean digital image. That's kind of interesting material and stuff. But yeah. So that's what I'm spending my money on, is like my next big thing to spend money on. Because there's a couple of other things I want to get, but again, like, that's something I could actually use quite regularly. Whereas, you know, some of the other stuff is like, would be, because again, it's like where people have sent me bows and stuff like that. It's like that's quite often weather dependent and, you know, who's around or not. Yeah, it's also, Nick, because I'm obviously with a digital format, I can really easily do something and then put on a video, either as a short or a full video. Whereas with the phosphor screen, how you do that is, if you're developing film, you could obviously do scans of the film quite well, but that requires a dark room, you know, or lots of proper equipment. Or you do what I've done before, which is take photos or videos of the phosphor screen, you know, like in a really dark room. But then the camera doesn't pick up the phosphor screen as well as the eye does, you know, and you still got to have the phosphor screen. Whereas these like proper digital sensors are like cutting edge compared to that stuff. It'd be like, you know, the equivalent of me saying, what would be easier for me to do a YouTube video with, you know, a digital camera where I can delete and edit footage easily, or just, you know, getting a film camera, then having to like take it to an editing room. And the nice things with these sensors, it's a lot safer as well, because you can obviously put the sensor there, you know, just tape it to something, set all the X-ray equipment up or whatever, or your gamma source, and then have the long USB lead leading to a laptop or whatever, where you, you know, register the pictures. Whereas with the phosphor screen and all that, you have to set up the camera or whatever and all that. So I think that'd be really good just for both YouTube stuff and just, you know, other stuff like that. Because I always find it interesting when people do X-rays of just old electronics. Because, you know, there's lots of videos of just people doing like X-rays from different angles of, you know, just like various things, so you can see where all like the little components are without opening something up. But yeah, I think it's only been in the last year or two where these sensors have come down from being a couple of grand, like I said, like the sort of 400 to 600 pound mark. That's good. Glad you got stuff you wanted, Gas Mask, dude. My favorite to wear is the Avon CT12 still. Like, again, but stuff like the C7s are rarer and more interesting. So again, it's, oh, that's cool. If you can plug an actual HDMI cable straight into an N64. But yeah, like I said, these X-ray things are just really cool because of the fact that it's, you know, really easy to do. And what I'm also interested in with them is, say if I got like a radium like clock dial or something, would that sensor pick that up, you know, so you could say like, this is what this radioactive source looks like to the sensor. Yeah, only thing with a CRT, Rajiv, you have to be really careful with is make sure you discharge the capacitors properly even when it's unplugged, because some CRTs carry like a monstrous amount of energy inside the capacitors. Yeah, it's a bit like a microwave of capacitors that, in theory, like there's nothing, once the capacitors are discharged, it's very dangerous in the CRT, because I keep hearing people say stuff like that. But no, the capacitors, it's just they can hold a really large charge. But yeah, like the whole stuff with CRT is really interesting. Like depending on what models you get, like obviously more modern CRTs have like modern circuit boards in. Like the only kind of retro technology in them is the actual CRT with the electron gun, like the screen. But if you get an old CRT, if I've got the tube around here, yeah, you get shit like this in the vacuum tubes. Because older CRTs run on the sort of massive like valve rectifiers. Because I've got these PD500s because they make X-rays if you put voltage through them. But yeah, but the more old-fashioned, so yeah, that's only an old-fashioned CRTs. More modern ones will just have like little chips and stuff. Yeah, Nick. Same with microwave. Like with a microwave, you've both got the capacitors that store a really high charge, and obviously, if you have electricity going through the microwave transformer, that's literally like cook you in a second kind of thing. Yeah, what was quite interesting, Rajiv, is when I had a load of old Soviet tubes, we plugged some of them into my friend's amp, and some of them made really cool noises. Like, you know, they weren't designed as guitar amp tubes, but they, you know, had the right fittings to plug into a guitar amp, and that was interesting because they just like made weird distorted sounds. But yeah, if you actually yeah, exactly, Reggie. Like I say, with solid state stuff, it's like, again, solid state is kind of boring to take apart, but I can completely understand why it's a lot more practical having like little you know, what do you call them, micro transistors and stuff like that, rather than giant valves to do everything. And it's safer in terms of like these give off X-rays even when these were in TVs back in the day, just because of the huge amount of voltage going through them. Because it's worn off now, but they actually literally had a warning on these telling you they made X-rays. You know, like danger makes X-rays because of like the bottom bit of the shape of the transistor or whatever it is. You know, the electrons hit it hard enough and bounce off to make X-rays. Ah, cool. Yeah, for what I got for Christmas was mostly clothes from people, which I don't mind because as you get older, people buying it, if they're buying you decent quality clothes, that's actually quite good because they're the sort of things, you know, like bathroom kind of bits like deodorants and those, which again I don't mind because I have to buy them anyway. So if people buy you a load of deodorants and that, it means that, you know, that's like a couple of months of the thing where you don't have to spend your own money on deodorants. And just like lots of people put money in envelopes, which I like because that's when you can just say to people, you know, I spent it on this or whatever. That's good. Yeah, it's good if people got stuff they wanted. But yeah, I was quite happy this year because I don't think I was given anything I thought, oh, I don't really want that sort of thing. Absolutely favorite gas mask. That's hard to know because again, it's probably not one I've got my favorite gas mask. They're probably like some of the really weird, interesting ones. But again, like, off the top of my head, it's kind of annoying to think. Because as much as I've like played around with an FM53 and that, um, I get why the appeal of it is there for special forces, but not for somebody like me. But I'm trying to think. There's probably some really cool gas masks I've seen in like prototype pictures I've really liked. You know, like the off the top of my head, I just can't think right now. Yeah, the worst masks though I've ever seen JJ for talc were Bulgarian gas masks. The two Bulgarian masks I got, I think it was the PG one and the PDE one, whatever they were called, like their M17 clone and then their like M65 clone. They were just literally like, it was almost like they'd made a second skin of talc. You know, like the amount of soaking with water and scrubbing it took to get all that talc off. It literally looked like somebody had got like super glue, covered the mask in it, and then shoved it in a bucket of talc. It's not as good as the S10 and some of the other masks of the same type, but the OM90 is still, you know, perfectly serviceable. It's just like the OM90's like got smaller lenses and stuff like that. I did do a short video on the G36, Tom, but I do need to do a full one at some point. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those videos, like, again, in the year, I'm hoping when I get a bit more holiday time, because what I've ended up doing is, because at my job, I can't, like, when we're really busy over Christmas, I can't book holiday. I've ended up getting a lot of my holiday, you know, like remaining holidays booked to use up between like January and March. So hopefully when I get some more time then I might get time to actually do videos. But yeah. Yeah, M15 Israeli masks are very good. Most of the German M65 copies and things like that, like the M15, are pretty good, because most of them have all right voice diaphragms, you know, and good sort of head support. Yeah, I can imagine talc on straps is annoying. If I remember right, the OM90 is the Czech S10 clone. It's the one Myra give a different name to. Yeah. So Myra gives some sort of different name for it, like the CM3 or whatever they call it, but it's the Czech S10 basically, but it's like an S10 if you cheaped out on some of the parts. I still like the face piece in that, but it's a 5-point, not a 6-point head harness, if I remember right. And then it's like it's got that weird voice diaphragm or like, you know, XL valve cover that is kind of just weird, that looks like a cheese grater. JJ, when I get the chance to, the problem's been at the moment that every evening when it's got dark, it's been raining. So it's not, would I ever do it? Of course I would. It's just kind of the problem of a lot of the time when it's good weather or like good time of the year for night vision, like this time of year, it, like, you know, it's just horribly damp and rainy. I prefer the M15 because, like I said, the OM90 is like an S10, just not as good. The M15 is at least quite decent. Well, all Myra do is literally rebrand other people's gas masks for more money. You know, they get the rights to resell them with a new name for more money. So you're just literally spending more money for a mask that's on the surplus market. Yeah, JJ, do that, but don't get in trouble because you never know what people might say if they saw you doing that. They're available, WH, but it's just finding them. Because again, it's like one of those things, I don't know if they're technically meant to be exported by civilians in Israel, but it happens. And it's also like one of those things where it's just don't spend too much money for them. Like any of these things, that if they're, you know, if you find one on like eBay in the US or like an army surplus site for not too much money, then it's a good deal, but don't spend silly amounts on them. Yeah, the Chinese S10 clone is a lot better than the OM90 is. The Chinese one, when I got a chance to play with one, is very, very similar to an actual S10. You know, like they've almost copied it exactly. You know, there's bits they've changed where they've just used their regular kind of like, they have that same XL valve diaphragm thing that they use in the FMJ05 and a couple of others. But yeah, I'd say it's closer and better quality, like to an actual S10 than the OM90 is. Normally stupid amounts of money, WH, unless you get the civilian ones, like the VM37 and the VM40, then they're sometimes quite cheap. But cheers, Clint. When you say EMR, do you mean the Russian camo? the Digiflora on Mr. Mobic. But yeah, that's just Digiflora. The it's not official Russian stuff because that's basically unobtainium now because it already was sold off. But it's like one of those Mordor tack or whatever they call them, like sort of airsoft copies. I just wanted some to put on the skeleton. Yeah, USM 81 Woodland's really nice, just like old British like DPM 95. You know, they're just the classic sort of woodland camos. Yep, GP5s, if you can get one cheap, get one. Like I said, it's not a mask I particularly rely on, but they're, you know, kind of cool bits of history for cheap prices. Well, most of it, JJ, was already sold off. Like, it was one of those things where they all, due to corruption, it was all being sold to airsofters and that before the war. And then during the war, yeah, they're actually being a lot more strict on if any of it's still being produced, it actually going to where it's meant to go. No, GP5s take GOST 40mm, so you're going to struggle to get proper filters for it, which is why, like I was saying, I wouldn't recommend it now. Even if the mask's in great condition, you're not going to, unless you're buying like really high-end Chinese filters for it or whatever, you're going to struggle to actually get standard filters for it. Again, Local Aviator, I still do gas mask videos. Make sure you check my channel because, again, there was a couple I did not too long ago. But like I said, there's no point in me just doing the same videos over and over and over again. Again, there's one mask I've actually bought that I've not got around to doing a video on yet. But like I was saying, loads of people never seem to watch all my videos because YouTube doesn't share them properly. So, because I remember at one point, people kept asking me to do a video. I did it, and then a week later, people were saying, "Why haven't you still done this video?" And I was like, "So you've just literally not looked at my feed, have you?" Kind of thing. Yeah, you get another, basically. Is 68 pattern Rob's Motos the one that's like looks kind of like more like the Africa pattern one, if you want to call it that, like the one that they wear in the wild geese and that? I've definitely not breathed through any World War II masks, military and stuff, with the filters attached. I'm sure I must have breathed through some Cold War filters, like from other countries that are probably a bit sus, but so they can probably put him in a penal battalion, JJ, and then send him to the front. GP5M, again, that's basically just the GP5, also known as the PMK2. Sorry, PMG2. That's just basically, it's just a GP5 with ear holes and a voice diaphragm on it. It's better than a GP5 simply because it's got a voice diaphragm on the front. Other people can hear you better, but it's essentially exactly the same mask. Out of all the Soviet masks, the Shums and the PBF are probably my favourite. And the MM1, actually, but if you mean the Hungarian masks, I'm pretty certain they're in GOST. Unless you mean the Romanian ones, because the Romanian M74 and M85, they're NATO. Because for whatever reason, although Romania was like a Warsaw Pact country, they made them under license from German M65s. Or you could just fart in real time, Gary. That would work. But like that type of one, I'm trying to remember the name of that now. It's on the poster, isn't it? It's in Cyrillic. It's like PTM1 or something, isn't it? I've got one actually that's not on the wall. I'll get that one. The one that's in the blue fabric. I'm pretty sure it was called something like the PTM1. It's literally just like kind of like a cotton face piece with like elasticated straps on it. And the idea is that, you know, you then just look through these little eye holes. I won't put this one on because where it's been sat, it's probably got a load of dust in it. But yeah, they're basically just like particulate masks, really. That's all they do. But I think they're kind of cool and creepy looking. Again, it's not. This isn't a gas mask at all. It does not stop gases. Its only job is to stop particulates like radioactive dust. It was basically designed to be you know, a cheap mask for people to wear, a bit like surgical masks, as you can see on the pictures behind me if it focuses. I don't know if the webcam's going to focus, but yeah, it was designed to be worn just as sort of like one of those, it stops dust getting down your sort of nose and throat sort of thing. Clint, the problem is most CBRN filters won't be sold to civilians unless you're buying them as surplus. So, as I've said before, if you want to get the equivalent really of a CBRN filter, get just an ABEK filter, search ABEK, and then buy it from, you know, like industrial stores. Because they're essentially the same thing, just that's how they market them as to civilians. Like, if you look at what an ABEK filter does and what, like, most military CBRN filters filter, they are literally the same thing. All right, cheers, Rob. Hope you're having a good evening then. Yeah. I hope 2024 is better than 2023, because my 2023 has been a bit shit, in all honesty. You know, I don't know if it's been worse than 2022 or, you know, whatever, but I've had like a year, you know, where a load of things have just gone wrong or whatever. So, I'm hoping, but, you know, when you say things couldn't possibly get any worse, that doesn't normally, you know, doesn't normally count. But, you know, before COVID, everything was fine. Then we had COVID, you know, then we've had lots of horrible wars. In my country, WH, for the most part, they use Avon FM12s. Because if you see on eBay, when you look at the FM12s on eBay, lots of them have the coloured like discs on the front, and that's apparently for police rank when they're wearing them. Cheers, Rajiv. Like, that cough I've got's a bit weird, because that's coming and going quite a lot, like even on the day. So, you know, I've like an hour where I'm coughing quite a bit, like I was yesterday, and finding it, you know, find my throat closes up quite a bit, and then for a few hours I'm fine. Then it happens again, because like when I went to bed last night, I was laying down for about an hour, then I had a bit of a coughing fit, and then I was absolutely fine again. It was a bit weird. Yeah, like I said, but it's quite weird, Rob, for me to get like a cough that's off and on, you know, because a few of my relatives, I think, have had it as well, but they've been saying the same thing. It's where it's like you cough and sort of, you know, you have periods where you cough and that, and then you feel completely fine. So it's not like a consistent sore throat and a cough. It's like one that just seems to come in almost like spasms and then go. Yeah, thank you, Mr. T. Baggins. I've had a very good Christmas. Well, GSR is definitely better in terms of, well, if you had one of the later GSRs made to a good standard where it's not going to fall apart from bad gluing or whatever, GSRs are definitely better than GP5s just in terms of toughness of the materials and stuff like that. Or TV wants to auto turn off. Let me stop my TV from turning itself off. So I ended up doing that just now and again I forget to turn my screen off when I went to bed. So I've now done that thing, you know, where like every couple of hours my TV says, you know, press OK, or in 5 minutes I will turn myself off, kind of thing. So that's good, because it means that, you know, it doesn't waste electricity being on overnight, but it's just a bit annoying that when you're actually using the screen, it does it. Because as far as I know, annoyingly, there's no option on this TV to say when you go into screensaver mode because you don't detect an input, then turn yourself off, you know, after 5 minutes. It only seems to be always on, or just after a set amount of time, it will ask you to confirm you still want to watch TV. Oh, that's good for you, M10M, but yeah. No, it's Samsung, I think. No, it's, or a Panasonic. I can't remember. No, Philips. There we go. Philips. It says on the remote. Because I think the actual name on the TV, because its frame is so thin, is, oh yeah, it does say right in the middle Philips, but I've got stuff on the desk, so you can't see like the bottom frame of the TV. But it took me absolutely ages to figure out on this TV. It worked fine with the PlayStation 5, but it took me ages to figure out how to set the like TV and the PC to both HDMI, not HDMI, like HDR of each other, where, you know, like one wouldn't want to receive HDR or export HDR signals to the other without going through loads of options. So that was an absolute ball ache to get this PC exporting HDR, but now I've done it. Like, you know, a lot of games look a lot nicer, but like PS5, it's just like, oh, HDR signal detected running in HDR mode. But with the PC, It's like I had to do so many, like doing a certain menu, then doing something on the TV, going back to something on the PC, you know, doing it in a very specific order before it would work. Yeah, but definitely Brussels sprouts are like the gas bombs, aren't they? Well, Clint, again, they might, like, as Army surplus, they normally do, but what I'm saying is if it's an NBC sort of CBRN filter, like a military one, for the most part, that's for military contract, if that makes sense. So, like, when surplus shops have them, it's because they're technically expired, even if they're still fine. But what I'm saying is the same companies that make those filters, if they're selling them to the civilian market, they call them normally ABEC or like ABC filters or whatever. Yeah, but the ones Myrasal, bear in mind, are just the same Czech ones you can buy from that company. Um, you know, like, again, they'd have just a civilian version of the same filter with the same contents, just given a different name. Yeah, and again, 60 quid. Like, if you go on, say, if I just went on eBay now and typed in ABEC filter, 40mm ABEC, say, normally you can find them for like 20 quid or so. Brand new one for 30 quid. Again, the prices at the moment actually seem quite a lot on eBay, but yeah, like there were times when you could get like, or maybe if I search RD40 filter on eBay, yeah, there's loads of RD40 filters coming up for like, you know, 10 to 30 quid. Again, it was a lot better before COVID. You know, prior to COVID, there were lots and lots of things a lot cheaper, but I think after COVID, lots of people actually stockpile filters a bit more now. Because yeah, when I like, that was one thing I like noticed when I was like saying it on YouTube videos during COVID. It was like prior to COVID, lots of people didn't want respirators at all. You know, like you get them really cheap surplus. Then as COVID started happening, like people actually were buying up loads of gas masks. You don't marry somebody, Benny, that's going to cause a problem like that. That's the answer. Maybe don't get married in the first place if you're worried about that. But yeah, speaking about stuff like that, it's amazing the amount of like blokes I know that are older than me, like, you know, through work and other places, that have literally been married and then saying like, as soon as I got divorced, I was so much happier. You know, just because of like oh, I spent so many years like, you know, my wife basically, I guess, being what's the word for it, pussy whipped or whatever, where it's like, you can't have your interests. Yeah, exactly, all that, JJ. I thought, Benny, of a lot of people though, it was like the opposite way around, where like loads of people were laughed at with that sort of thing, and then when COVID happened, everybody thought it was really sensible. And now, like, I have the weird thing where during COVID, I was sort of thinking, lots of this was really sort of worthwhile. And now, like, I have relatives that still want to get COVID vaccines, and I sort of say to them, I don't see the point anymore, because, like, after I had COVID the first couple of times, like now and again, I'll get a cold, test myself, and it's COVID, but it just seems like a cold to me. And again, I know, some people get COVID really badly in that, but I think with like a lot of things, it's once you've probably caught it a couple of times, you get your own natural immunity anyway. But yeah, it's just one of those things, I think, where I think there's another disease though, isn't there, coming out of China, like some sort of SARS disease that's causing lots of problems there at the moment. Will probably hit us again. I'm just hoping we don't get more like lockdown crap, because that's going to cause like even more economic misery if we get that, after the first pandemic we still not recovered from. If they don't get another one, say, no, we don't want people to go to work, so we're going to pay you to stay at home, and then you're going to have even higher taxes in the next few years. Yeah, apparently, Rajiv. But yeah, I had 3 vaccines, or have I had 4 vaccines? I've not, I can't remember, but I've either had like 3 or 4. I had like, so I can't remember how they did the boosters originally, but I had the thing where, like, the first couple of vaccines I had no bad reaction to. then I eventually got COVID and was quite ill. But the time I had COVID and I was really ill was apparently because I caught COVID, then caught like, a common flu, like a winter flu, at nearly the same time. So my immune system was just getting completely battered because it had like 2 infections to fight off at once. Right, see you, Gary. But then the one that when I can't remember if it was my 3rd or 4th vaccine, I had one of the vaccines that made me quite ill. Like not anything bad, like heart problems or whatever, like some of the people had, like myocarditis or whatever it was. But just like where I felt like I had really bad flu after getting the vaccine. I thought if I get a vaccine again and it makes me feel like this, I'm not having one. Yeah, I ended up in hospital for a day, Rajiv, when I got the flu and COVID at the same time. So I ended up getting some fluid in my lungs. But it was like 4 or 5 days where I felt absolutely shit, like couldn't get out of bed, and then I started recovering. Yeah, that's the thing, Rajiv. I think it might in some ways be a bit like measles. Yeah, I suppose, Benny. But yeah, like because measles is one of those things, isn't it? Where I know if you catch measles, it like rewipes your immune system. Did you get long COVID then? But yeah, I know a few people that have had like health complications they never had before COVID. But again, like there's stuff like where in some ways it's hard to know, isn't it? Because sometimes you just literally will develop like a health condition. And I think a lot of people now will probably say, oh, because I had COVID before I noticed symptoms of like this other thing, it was COVID, but there's no way of knowing really. Yeah, I played a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online during the pandemic. Rob, at the moment, I've been playing quite a lot of Marauders, but not streaming it. Sort of now and then, because there was a big like update for Marauders, content update, because that's still in early access. And the other thing I've been playing quite a lot of, well, started the other day when I was on the stream, I've been playing it a bit more properly today, is Ready or Not, because there's like the 1.0 release of Ready or Not, isn't there, where you've actually got more like a campaign mode in it now. Yeah, I mean, Red Dead Online's still around, but the problem is that they don't really do any content updates to it now. Like, all they do is, now and again, we'll do a seasonal type thing, but that's it. Like, they did the Christmas thing again this year, but they haven't added any new content as far as I'm aware. Yeah, the Ready or Not's AI is weird. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be finicky. And again, if you're on a really long mission, failing the mission because your AI fucks up at one point is really annoying. The main problem I have with the Ready or Not AI is the amount of times suspects, even when they're outnumbered with you or your police pointing guns at them, won't surrender. Like in SWAT 3 and 4, I'm pretty sure that a lot of suspects, if you outnumbered them in a room, would throw their gun down, or like if they took a bullet to the leg or something, would then throw their gun down. Where in Ready or Not, a lot of the time it seems like suspects are pretty much determined, unless you use a flashbang on them or whatever to restrain them, like they won't stop shooting at you until you kill them. And then on some missions, it's like, oh, you're getting a massive penalty to your like mission success thing because you didn't arrest a certain suspect, even though like there was no literal way you could do it unless you knew exactly what room they were going to have spawned in and like flashbanged every room, which you don't have enough flashbangs for or whatever. Probably is my last stream of the year because Monday is the 1st of January, isn't it? And I'm working all this weekend, probably like doing another 20 hours weekend. So I'm hoping it's not going to be as busy because it's gone Christmas, but I don't know, in all honesty. Because a lot of years where I'm at work, we used to be really quiet after Christmas, but I think like this January we were still really busy. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's quiet, but I don't know. That's the problem. And I know a lot of other staff are booking holidays off now, so it's going to probably be one of those things of not many staffing. But yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody. Yeah, and Happy New Year. Yeah, exactly. Dev Squid, like saying that's the thing. Like I've got so many gold bars in it and so much money from just doing lots of daily sort of, like random daily missions and that and playing it to death that yeah. I could literally buy the entire catalogue, and every premium thing, and still have like gold and all that left over. It's annoying because they keep updating GTA Online, but again, Red Dead Online was a lot more fun for me. But yeah, it just sadly got to the stage where even though a lot of people were playing it, Rockstar just sort of gave up on it. Yeah, once this stream ends in a bit, I'm going to go get my dinner because I've got leftovers to sort of reheat today and have some of. I'm just trying to get and eat them up because the funny thing was yesterday there was an offer on at Domino's, and it was like, if I was getting this offer, it was like the same price for 2 large pizzas and 2 sides, getting 1 large pizza on its own. So I ended up just getting so much pizza that, I'm just trying to eat kind of like pizza for every meal of the day at the moment, which I'm sure is very unhealthy, but whatever. But yeah, because we had sort of thing of, obviously we had all the Christmas food, and as soon as that was eaten up, there wasn't really much in any of the sort of bits. Yeah, there was an offer on Rajiv yesterday. They sometimes, if you look on like the Domino's app and all that for offers, sometimes some of the offers are silly. Because I know we had one offer once when I was around my friend's thing for my birthday, where it was like get 3 large pizzas, I think, for the price of one, or it was less than the price of 2. So they paid like 20 odd quid for 3 large pizzas. There were bits I liked about the lockdown, Benny, but I think it's like one of those things where it's going to cause a lot of long-term harm in terms of economic stuff. And I know like lots of kids' education got ruined where they couldn't go to school properly. But yeah, the weird thing is for me, Rajiv, is despite this week being like the Christmas week, I haven't drunk much alcohol at all. I had a bit of wine on Christmas Day, like with my food, like, a small glass of wine at dinner time. Then in the evening, I think I had 1 pint of like Foster's or something pretty weak. And I think I've had one other lager this week, and that's been it. Like I've been pretty good this thing, and I think with January, I'm even going to do dry January, or like barely drink for January, just because, like I said, I've got other stuff I want to spend my money on, not on beer. But yeah, I think that was the weird thing for me because it was like coming up to Christmas. It was like all the like work Christmas party stuff and all that. Like I drank a lot more coming up to Christmas than I did actually during the Christmas week. And I wanted to be, like nice and sober and aware when I was talking to relatives and stuff. Because that was one of the things I said to a lot of my relatives this year is like, don't buy me beers because then I feel obliged to, like drink them or whatever. That's why I'd much rather people give me socks and beers because, the only problem is when people give you alcohol as a gift, I feel guilty if I've not drunk it. But then, it's one of those things where, what I mean. But yeah, like I said, and that's one of the things I do like when people give me money anyway, because you can just put it towards whatever you want. Whereas, like, yeah, I don't like it when people get you stuff and then you feel obliged when they next see you to go, oh, have you had your, like, bottle of whiskey I got you yet or whatever? And then you have to say, oh, no, I've not had it because I'm trying to be, like, sober. And then they sometimes feel bad about giving it you, or, like, where I'll say, like, oh, yeah, I had it in, like, one day and felt awful sort of thing. Enjoy that when you're back, Smalls. No, that poster, I'll see if I can find anything like it on eBay at the moment before I go off. But I typed in just something like Soviet gas mask poster. Just something like that. Yeah, like it isn't this one, but it's this sort of thing. Let's see if I can make the URL shorter. Just because eBay's done that thing where it's done a really stupidly long URL. All right. No, I'll just try and shorten the URL because right, if this URL still works, it's not this exact poster, but it's this sort of thing. So you want to sort of look at sellers like that. That one, I think, was a really high quality reprint rather than the original, but it was about the same price. And, with something like that, if it's like a proper scan that's been cleaned up and then printed on good quality, like, like plasticky material and then, printed to a good, like, resolution, I don't mind it being a reprint. Because especially when I've seen some of the old posters, they've been in, like, really tatty condition anyway. Ah, that's nice of you, Regiv. Yeah, that's the other thing I don't like about the Christmas period, Benny, if I'm being like rude about it, is just that, yeah, because you end up seeing a lot of people at things like that, it's just the amount of germs going around. Whereas, yeah, when you're when you're actually sort of, in regular times of the year, you tend to get less colds and infections and things like that, because especially in the summer, because obviously a lot less people get ill and stuff's better ventilated. But yeah, then you have all the big like party gatherings where people are more likely to be ill. Yeah. But yeah, it's hard to know, Raju. But again, if you've been on like lots of public transport, you've got lots of chances to pick something up, and then yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because yeah, if kids are at school and that, they're always. Because the thing is, like, kids get colds a lot, but they normally don't get very ill. But as you get older and your immune system doesn't, isn't as good, you end up, it being a much bigger risk for you picking stuff up. Because it's like where I work as well. In the summer, they have like all the doors and windows open because it's hot, and you never get ill. But in the winter, because they have like all the air set to recycle with heaters, it's always like if somebody's ill there, you're going to pick it up. And for me, I don't have the case of like if I get a cold so many times, I feel like I'm not going to catch it. No, it's just like if somebody's ill, I'm picking up a different bug this week. But yeah, that's the problem. Is during COVID, I think a lot of places were a lot better with ventilation. But as soon as COVID finished and they knew they could, close windows and just be cheaper with their heating, they just went back to doing it. Anyway, I'm going to head off now because I need to start reheating my pizza. I've been eating cold pizza as well, but I'm going to have half a pizza, I think, warmed up now. And then, yeah, like I said, I won't be on at the weekend, I doubt, because if I'm busy at work at the weekend, I'm just going to be knackered by the time I get home. Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody had a nice Christmas. And like I said, I've got a gas mask video I want to do. But yeah, like I said, the thing that I'm using Christmas money towards, where relatives are giving me, is getting an X-ray sensor for digital X-ray imaging, which should be really interesting on videos. People that find X-rays interesting. Obviously, if you don't, then you're not going to find it interesting. But it's one of those things for me where, like I like seeing the insides of what stuff looks like, either like skeleton type things or like with electronics, seeing all the circuit boards without taking it apart. So yeah, with a sensor, that should be quite easy to do. So yeah, have a good new year, everybody, and I will see everybody hopefully within the first couple of days of the new year. I think either for a stream or getting a video uploaded. Yeah, clipper lighters are cheap and work fine. So yeah, I've never really had any issues with clipper lighters. As much as people have said to me, clipper lighters are bad, I've never really had an issue. Like I said, Bics are the ones I don't really like, just because they're always designed to be disposable. Where like clipper lighters is almost the same price of Bic lighters, but you can refill them. So it just makes more sense to me. Right, yeah. Have a good evening, everybody. Happy New Year to everybody, and I'll see you all, like I said, hopefully in the new year quite promptly.